Thank you very much, Jen. Yeah, so this is a good opportunity for me to kind of introduce myself to the club. I know our previous talks have been thus far about fossils, about fungi. Last month's talk with Dr. Galbraith about heritage trees. So youth are an animal unto themselves. So that's part of the naturalist side of this. And so, but I'm new to the club, and so I thought I would take this opportunity to, introduce myself a little bit, but also talk about what we're doing here in the region to kind of bolster what's. So that's me in dotting form. So I'm an educator. I'm a guide. I'm kind of all the things you see here. I kind of didn't start my career until a little bit later because I was for a little bit pursuing a career in laziness and a little bit in music, but eventually I came into this world. I'm a born and raised Hamiltonian. For those of you who are also from the region, that's my grandpa, Dr. Stanley Hudecki. So I come from a pretty large family with extensive backgrounds, and like I said, it took me a while to kind of figure out who I was and where I fit into the mold within the family and the mold kind of within myself. But since I was a kid, I've always had a big love for and been really curious about nature. And I can definitely thank my parents, who are actually both here, who I kind of thought maybe they'd be the only two in the audience tonight, for taking me outside. Now, they also had 5 kids, and I was number 4, and I had a younger brother. So I often say that just to release the energy, they would release the hounds, and we would just go outside and explore. So I've been exploring since a young age, and I had no clue that I could even pursue nature as a career until I was in my mid-20s. I'm a graduate of Fleming College from Lindsay, Ontario. I graduated from the Park Operations and Outdoor Recreation course, which is now defunct. But I got hired immediately at the Wasaga Beach Provincial Park, and I worked there for a year, which was amazing. And I've been a part of a few councils, and since being hired at the Gardens, I'm now involved with the Hamilton Naturalist Club. And very proud to be a part of this club as it enters, as it's in its 100th year. So I'm going to ask everyone to give a quick round of applause just for that alone. I mean, 100 years is amazing. It was in 1919 that a bunch of volunteers, much like ourselves, saw what was happening to Hamilton with the growth in this area and how beautiful Cootes Paradise was. And the Hamilton Bird Protection Society were the first group of volunteers to help kind of put that protection on at least the south shore of Cootes Paradise. And this is a bit of a history about RBG because my talk is kind of intertwined with those organizations. But if it weren't for that group of volunteers of the Hamilton Bird Protection Society stepping up and creating that awareness about this area and how important it was from a biological standpoint, who knows what Cootes would even look like today. And now we know that the Bird Protection Society is now the Hamilton Naturalist Club. And I was at a Bird Studies Club meeting where back in 2017 where I heard about the chance to join the board of directors with the Hamilton Naturalist Club. And I thought, perfect, this is exactly what I need to be doing. And Braun happened to be sitting right beside me. And so I whispered, like, hey, we've never met, but I'd be interested in joining the board. And I think she nearly erupted like a volcano. Of course, yes! And it's my honor to be part of this in its 100th year, and happy to be celebrating with everybody here. If you're not aware of Royal Botanical Gardens, 2,700 acres of land kind of protected from Aldershot over towards the Dundas area. And so with a little bit of the Niagara Escarpment mixed in for good measure, but the Cootes Paradise Marsh is I don't know, not where I call home necessarily, but where a lot of different things call home. And RBG and the Naturalist Club, as well as I think 7 other organizations, are all part and under the Coots to Escarpment Eco Park umbrella. So a bunch of like-minded organizations who are all striving for the same thing. Everyone who is serious about protecting nature forever. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on. RBG has 4 pillars: conservation, education, horticulture, and science. And I kind of land in the educational part of it all. And if you've never seen Coots Paradise before, these are just a couple images of the area that was shot by Mark Zielinski a few years ago for a book that was produced for us. And just a beautiful place. And I've taken this presentation. This is the 3rd time I've talked about what I do here and with youth. I've spoken at the Nature Guelph series last, I think it was April, and I spoke at the Council of Outdoor Educators of Ontario back in September, both on this topic. And so I like to show some of these pictures just in case people aren't aware that things like this exist in Hamilton, Dundee, Burlington. So things that are, of course, worth protecting and worth talking about. Of course, we've got some cultivated garden areas. That's the heritage piece that Dr. Galbraith was talking about last month. Overhead view of Rock Garden, which kind of shows the old canal where the water used to flow from Coots into garden, as well as my favorite spot and where I spend a lot of my time is at the Arboretum. And just a beautiful place to be. And I mean, being in a tree museum is pretty neat. So if you don't know, that's what Arboretum stands for, is Tree Museum. And I spent, when I was hired at RBG, I was hired back in 2010, and I spent a lot of time at the Arboretum. And I've had a few different roles here. So when I was hired, every winter, we host a different winter exhibit. And this year it's on spiders, but when I started, it was on the Amazon rainforest. And I've been part of, I think, 5 different exhibits since then. So that's me in a puppet theater, both here and here. I've done a lot of canoeing, a lot of birding, a lot of just talking to the public, working with camps. And I even spent a summer working with Tice Meyer in the Natural Lands Department, which was backbreaking, but amazing. And only about 3 or 4 years ago or so did they create this position of a special programs coordinator, and that's kind of who I am. And I have several tasks with this position. I work a lot with different age groups of people. I'm not sure if many people drink beer here. I know there's one in particular who was there, Mr. Smith. If he can let you know what this event was like, but I run something called the Festive Ales right in this room, and it's a fantastic event. I run an obstacle course for kids. I'm in charge of kind of reaching out to the community to be part of outreach events. I do public speaking just like this, and we did some concerts last summer at the Arboretum. But it's a new position, and I've been kind of making it because it never existed before me. So this obstacle course that we bring kids into at the Arboretum, they'll run through anywhere from 3 to 4.5 kilometers of an obstacle course. It's 17 or 18 obstacles long, and it's just for school groups. They have a blast. I've been doing birding programming out of RBG. It started as birding for beginners, and it's now called Not Just a Birding Club. So if you want to learn more about birds and be amongst birders on some hikes, you can join us. Peter Tome is often out on the hikes with everybody, and I'm happy for his expert knowledge. Barry Coombs is often out as well as Lynn Hanna Folks. So if you ever want to be amongst other birders or know people who want to get into it, this perhaps would be a way, because everyone starts. And then, yeah, so I do a lot of outreach. I've been getting us involved with Supercrawl, with the Telling Tales Festival, the Outdoor Adventure Show a few years ago, the Art Gallery of Hamilton, and I'll do talks pretty much anywhere that anyone will have me. It's kind of their loss that I talk so much, but hey, if they want to bring me in, that's up to them. And then the other part of my role is working with the Junior Naturalist Club. So Brian Wiley, who's here tonight, is our senior naturalist as one of our experts, and it's been the longest standing club in the region for youth and for kids. It started somewhere in the 50s under John and Alice Lamoureux before it transferred over to the legend herself, Barb McKeon, who ran it for nearly 30 years, if not more. Um, it went to the RBG's education team before coming to me, and I led it for a few years, and I now have a host of facilitators who come through and work with kids who are 7 to 12 years old. And when I first started, I brought these ideas forth of doing crafts and doing stories, and Barb was she said, just get them outside. Get them outside, keep them outside, hike them, and that's it. Come up with different themes per week, but just get them outside, and that's what we've been doing. And so it's just once a month, and the membership in the past, I think it was, Barb was saying that it ended up being around 40 kids, and they split that up into 2 groups with a waiting list of nearly 100 kids. And in the last decade or so, it's kind of been falling off a little bit, but it's starting to climb again. We have almost 30 kids enrolled right now, with several instructors, and it's climbing. This was us on a recent walk just back in December. This is kind of the boardwalk between North and South Bridle Trail, and we had been playing some games out in Mitchell's Field for a little while, and you might notice that there's some older kids and some younger kids intermixed there. I'll explain that shortly. But after David's talk about heritage trees, we posed as a group in front of one of the trees that David was talking about in RBG in the Hendry Gardens there, of one of the oldest trees in the area. And so I thought that'd be fitting to show this here tonight. And so this then was created, something where we had a lot of programming for younger kids, 7 to 12. We didn't have a ton for teenagers. And when I was spending time as a casual interpreter, as a resource interpreter before I became special programs coordinator, I spent days just hiking school groups throughout RBG's property. And we see anywhere from 15 to 17,000 students annually come here for field trips, booked by teachers, to come through and to kind of reinforce their classroom teachings by bringing them outside. And I found that there was a huge disconnect after kids pass through grade 5, grade 6 with their love of nature. A kid up to grade 3, grade 4, you show them anything. You show them, a gull, a cormorant, something that might be a typical thing for a naturalist. They'll go nuts. New Canadians can see a squirrel and go bonkers over a squirrel, which is amazing to celebrate. It kind of always reinforces to me to never stop thinking about nature when you're seeing it in front of you. But somewhere around grade 5, grade 6, the coolness side of nature falls off, and you become dorky or geeky or something to the eyes of your other peers. And it's not cool to celebrate nature the same way. When kids would come on field trips, they'd be coming along and be like, hey, what's that? Like, oh, it's a bird. And it's like, hey, look at that giant blue bird, what could it be? And one kid, oh, blue jay! And you see how excited that one kid would be. And it would be great to see that and to celebrate that enthusiasm and that momentum. And that would hopefully carry throughout the day. So sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. And so it was recognized by upper management here that we didn't have something for the teens. And so through Barb McKean, through my manager, Sabrina Hall, and with the permissions of the CEO and the directors, the Yes Alliance was born. Something where we could, through facilitation by myself, bring youth to RBG from anywhere around here, as long as they can get here, and get them outside. Find those kids, find the excited kids who are still excited as young teens, and bring them in and keep harnessing that energy. And so through a couple of grants, my position, before I even was granted it, we were successful in a couple of different grants, and that kind of helped pay for my salary. But also we thought to entice some kids in, we would put a stipend and say, if you attend 80% of the sessions we create, we'll give you $200. Parents were like, well, I don't know if I can pay for that. Actually, we'll pay your kids just to be part of this. And as long as we were submitting reports and following a few guidelines, we were able to kind of run this club. And so we thought, get them outside, get them meeting experts and professionals and hobbyists, mentor them through this, and we kind of want to guide them towards a post-secondary education in the environmental sector. Because I didn't know when I was that age that I could get a job in this world. Maybe I did, maybe I just didn't really realize it. But letting these kids know now that they can start now and build their resume and build their career starting from a young age. Why not? Let's do it. And so there was a very loose set of criteria that we started with. So they had to be in high school. They had to register. They had to submit a letter of reference from someone in their community. They must love the outdoors, which really wasn't mandatory. Have a desire to pursue post-secondary education, not quite mandatory. They must enjoy being amongst other like-minded youth, not totally mandatory. They must want to attend sessions. They don't have to be there. They just really must be alive and dragged out there by their parents. That was my loose criteria. I kind of thought, okay, I could take 15 kids annually, and that's going to be my limit because I know that when I'm in groups of 20 or more, I think it's tough to manage on the trail. So I gave the number 15, so 1 leader, 50 kids, that would be great. But then to kind of allow the club to grow annually, should it be successful. So we got to name it. I got to kind of create a schedule, but then in order for our club to run, I needed people. So we had to start shopping it around, and we were just letting it out there to the community that we had this youth club, and it's out there, and people could sign up. So I had 13 kids sign up year one, and I had no idea, who was coming at me. I just read their credentials on this registration form. I didn't know what they were going to look like. I didn't know what they were going to think of me. I'm not trained in working with youth. I've got an outdoor rec and leisure kind of background. I can talk to them, so why not? But, what are they going to think of me? I don't know. And I really wanted to take a hands-off approach to a lot of this, because you can really put a lot of people off pretty quickly if they, in the first couple of minutes, aren't kind of jiving with what you're saying. So I didn't want to come off too strong with a lot of these kids. I didn't want to appear too cool or anything. I didn't want to appear not cool. I didn't know. So I just brought them in, and the first couple of sessions was just, let's get to know each other. And these were the faces of some of the kids that were in my first year of the Yes Alliance. And I said I had 13 kids sign up. And I don't think in one session I had all 13 kids there. Because it wasn't mandatory, because I never said you had to, I let them know, come if you can, if you can't, whatever. I'm not going to grade you on this. I'm not going to penalize you. So I created a schedule, and I tried to mix it up. It's going to be hard to do that, don't worry. But I tried to mix it up with sessions where I'm the leader only, and then sessions where we bring in an expert. So that way they can kind of get used to me and have a comfort zone, and then have these experts come in and learn from them one at a time. And whenever any bullet you see is an expert. So I use RBG staff and people who had gone on from RBG that I kind of knew that would be neat to kind of come talk to you. And so we did things like removing invasives, tree ID, working with dichotomous keys, working with the junior naturalist clubs, so showing these junior nats at 7 to 12 years old what the teenagers were like, so they maybe have something to look forward to when they get into high school. We did things like radio telemetry with our species at-risk biologists at the time. We would hike. We did bird box cleaning. We did night hikes. We learned about science communication. We went to the Butterfly Conservatory year one, and then we ended with like a 3-hour paddle to paradise. And so I took a few photos along the way. This was at -25, around this time, 3 years ago or so, and we were doing Catherine hooked up a radio telemetry unit to a big turtle, hid it in the wetlands, and we used it to try and find the turtle, listening to the blips and the beeps, and eventually we found it. To then talk all about her role as a scientist and the things that she does. There's a few of us at the Butterfly Conservatory. We're removing invasives. We're learning about trees. When the Cruiser Eco Park bought that chunk of property along New York Road, we helped with planting a whole bunch of natives. We were doing some bird box cleaning, which if you've never watched a live wild mouse jump at a teenager, it's worth being the facilitator for this program just for that. Because that was happening with a bunch of people. And then, of course, just getting to know the area, just paddling and hiking and letting them see the area in every phase. And year one was amazing. So we meet every second Saturday from 1 until 3:30 in the afternoon. Give them time to sleep in, and don't make it long enough that they can't either work in the morning or work at night or get home for a night thing with their family. And so it ended up being about 17, 18 sessions annually, starting in September and ending in May or early June. went well. And so we put together advertising for year 2. And year 2, I had 12 kids sign up. And some kids were part of the Junior Naturalist Club. Some kids had just heard about it in the region. Some are the children of parents that I know. Some are kids who used to be part of our summer camp program, because we offer summer camp, March break camp, winter camp, and perfect job opportunities or volunteer opportunities for youth to continue in this industry. And so, again, year 2, our sessions, we had about 18 of them. And I kept some things that worked, and I tried to add new things. So we did, again, a lot of hiking, removing invasives, doing a shoreline cleanup with the Stewards of Coos watershed, doing an ice walk. We did this in year 1 in early January, where the marsh was completely frozen over. We could hike right across it. So doing that was nerve-wracking for everybody, especially myself. But the marsh was only 6 feet deep anyway, so if anyone really thought we weren't that far away. But it was thick enough, and I got approval, so it's fine. We went to explore Christie's. We did a social media takeover in year 2, which was really neat. Just handing over our social media to all of these teens, because they're so adept in social media, so why not? We visited the aviary, and then I started wanting to do a little bit more, and I held a focus group, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little later. And then ending with a night paddle of Coos Paradise once again. Year 1, the kids loved it so much. Year 2, we got tons of pizzas. And then we got together at 6, and we paddled into the sunset and paddled until about 10. And it's unreal. Never paddled the marsh. Give it a shot. This is some of the trash we cleaned up as part of the shoreline cleanup. So these kids are getting their hands dirty wherever we can. But this ended up being a real eye-opening moment for a lot of these youth, because we saw just how much trash they were hauling out of the marsh, which of course, being next to the 403 would create a lot of trash. But there was some tears that day, and it's moved some of these kids even till today. It's one of the things that they remember most about. Here's us on that January ice walk, right in the middle of Coos. Try to spend a lot of time just listening. There's a huge importance of just being still in nature, trying to pass that on to these youth, and I wouldn't let them move for a couple minutes and just stand there and listen to what's around us. Trying to be stewards of the land, you have to at least let them appreciate it. Otherwise, they'll finish the hike, they'll go home, or whatever. So just spending moments just being still. We were planting natives on Earth Day in Churchill Park, having a bit of a debrief discussion about the social media takeover, and that year was the Ice Age exhibit, so we were using atlatl as a primitive throwing tool, which I learned I'm terrible at. I'd be terrible at. And then there's us paddling. Year 2 was a little bit different. The crowd had a lot of kids in grade 9, not many kids in grade 10, 11, and a whole bunch of kids in grade 12. So there was a bit of an age difference, and you can kind of see it in the group dynamics. And you can tell some kids were kind of dragged there. You'd ask them a question, and no one would be kind of just looking around. So it was a bit of a different year 2, but of course it persisted to year 3. So we advertised, and I got 18 kids in year 3. I call them kids, young adults. So this was a really interesting year. So you can see they're all wearing a similar t-shirt. So that's part of the package again. We'll have t-shirts made for everybody to kind of be in somewhat of a uniform. And these youth were pumped. Every week they came, I had a huge group. And while in year 2, anyone from year 1 was invited and allowed to come. So then in year 3, I would invite kids from year 2 and year 1. And I never really knew who was going to be coming to these sessions. Sometimes there would be 10, sometimes there would be 20, sometimes there would be 9. It was kind of a mix. But this group in particular kind of kicked Yes Alliance off in a bit of a different direction. So I created a different schedule. Again, a lot of the same things, bringing in different experts, and just getting them to be outside. We did the winter walk in January where we crossed the marsh again. I did some career coaching with them. And we spent probably 15 minutes on just shaking hands, which I never saw much merit in until I started shaking their hands, realized what kind of limp fish I was getting there. So we spent time just practicing shaking hands. We did lots of reviews. And I gave them a bit of a script to read just to have them practice being in a job interview. So yeah, we get outside. This was us exploring with the junior nats last year. This is all of us in a group shot. We went down to Carroll's Point and explored down there a little bit, which the trail is about this wide, so it was a bit precarious. I wouldn't do it again with young kids there. I brought in Wild Ontario to talk about birds of prey, and we did some birding with them. We went and visited the planetarium master. Yeah, so there's us doing some birding, some paddling. This was us, a bit of a group shot after doing some invasives removal. This young man here, this was his first, he didn't even have a social media account, and this was his first social media post, so I had to document that. And this is us doing some mock interviews in a classroom at the Nature Center, just to get him used to thinking on the fly out of nowhere. And it proved to be quite valuable. And so year 3 was something else. Year 3 was pretty cool, and I started to learn more about myself and about the youth. You know, they were engaged, they wanted to learn more, they were hungry for action, and they had big voices.
I'm Abby, I'm 17, and I go to Westdale Secondary.
I'm Ethan, I'm 14 years old, and I go to Assumption High School.
My name is Summer, I'm 16, and I go to Westmount Secondary School.
I'm Mason, I am 15, and I go to Sherwood Secondary School.
My name is Peter Elmer, I'm 15, and I go to Sherwood Secondary School.
I'm Claire, I am 16, and I go to Nelson High School.
My name is Reese Moulton, I go to Dundas Valley Secondary, I am 16.
My name is Jessica, my age is 18, and I go to Blythe Academy in Burlington.
My name's Daria, I'm 16, and I go to Aldershot High School.
My name is Noor Tuema, I'm 16 years old, and I go to Dr. Frank J. Hayden Secondary School.
I'm Emily, I'm 16 years old, and I go to Aldershot High School.
My name's Ethan Goodell, and I'm 17 years old. I go to Dundas Valley High School.
I am James Morgan, I'm 16 years old, and I go to Dundas Valley Secondary School.
My name is Clara, I'm 18, so in grade 12 at Westdale.
So I asked them what are some of their favorite aspects.
Really the diversity and everything, as well as evolution, just how amazing it is and what it creates.
Lakes, rivers, streams, wetlands, stuff like that. I think it's really nice to be outside around that stuff.
I love water. I really love rivers and deep forests.
I particularly like the aquatic life. That's one of my favorite parts about it.
Why?
I don't know, just part of the underwater life and small organisms in there just fascinates me.
I think it's really interesting to go around and see the local nature and like the different kind of plants we have all around us.
Oh, I love going around and just seeing all the wildlife in its natural habitats. I love specifically snakes in general, going around and finding those. That's pretty fun.
Specifically, I like to take pictures of landscapes and just hiking in all different kinds of climates.
The colors and how vivid and bright everything is. And I love how everything's so alive and connected.
I like seeing how, like, ecology, how everything affects each other.
I think what I love most about nature is the diversity. The fact that this one place can contain so much, like plants, animals, and the list goes on.
You get the idea. So the next couple slides are going to be a few more about these youth. I asked them if they have any concerns about the environment.
I see a lot of littering.
I see a lot of people littering, especially at school. People get pretty careless about what they do with their garbage.
Littering is a huge problem. I see people every day throwing something on the ground when there's like a garbage can like 10 feet away. I sometimes go out of my way. If it's something big, I'll pick it up and throw it out. But there's only so much one person can do.
Plastic in the ocean, I've heard a lot about like animals getting stuck in small bits of plastic.
I'm very concerned about coral bleaching. Corals' reaction to increasing temperatures in their habitat and very quickly kills them.
So many plant and animal species are going extinct and they're becoming more endangered, and literally every aspect of the biosphere is polluted in one way or another. So there's a lot of concerns definitely, and the climate change is definitely like a big concern.
I'm definitely really concerned about climate change. It was David Suzuki who said, and I quote, "We're all in a giant car heading towards a big brick wall, and we're arguing over where we're going to sit."
One of my concerns is climate change and how the effects that we have on our environment in the end affect us again, and how it's going to affect our day-to-day lives eventually, and that we need to start taking action sooner rather than later. And my concern is that that may not happen unless we get the word out and we start getting people engaged.
Also fear. So are there solutions to some of those concerns?
Litter less, like pick up your garbage, properly recycle.
The community itself could just get together and do like an entire day or week where they just go around and pick up all the garbage they can see. I know my old school used to do that, but it's just one school rather than an entire city.
Definitely say switch to reusable energy, because it's definitely possible, but governments just aren't choosing to.
So on the individual scale, people can just take more steps to lead more environmentally sustainable lifestyles.
Just reducing your carbon footprint, really. Just eating local really helps. Taking public transit or biking helps. Taking shorter showers.
Buying locally will help for sure. Buying eco-friendly products.
Go vegetarian or vegan, at least for once a week.
Cutting down water usage. Not even cutting it down, it's just like being aware of stuff, like the little things of like how long your shower is, or if you're actually turning the water off when you're brushing your teeth, just tiny things like that.
I think one important action, which may not be super obvious, is just educating people about it, because once you get people concerned, more people do try and make different initiatives, and the more people you have thinking about it, the more solutions you can provide.
There's so much, and I think if people were educated on it, they would know what to do. And they would do it because, you know, no one's, I believe people, you know, want to help.
I asked if their demographic had a voice.
No, I don't feel like majority of our topics that my demographic comes up with are heard by important people.
Not particularly. I don't really know how to like get my voice out there, I guess.
So sadly, I don't think so, which I think is really tragic, because I think people do acknowledge that our generation is very advanced. I mean, we have all this technology at our disposal, and yeah, like we are the future. But I don't think that there's really any outlets for us to really talk about the environment specifically.
Well, yes and no. Like, I'm part of the Yes Alliance, obviously, and that's an entire group based around just going and getting out into the nature. We're talking to people and learning things. That's a group that allows kids to voice their opinions, but in everyday life, not a bunch of people have that opportunity to do so.
I think Yes is the first place where I've been like able to come forward and be like, I'm concerned about this and I'm concerned about this, and really talk about that. Otherwise, I would say no, because there aren't just a lot of programs and stuff out there where you can really share your opinion about that kind of stuff.
I think our youth voice currently is one of the largest coming around as of nature, because a lot of us do want to preserve the environment for us to enjoy and our children to enjoy.
In some ways, yeah. Yeah, I think so. And there's way more opportunities now for us to go out and do things. Like, you can, there's so much you can do here, like volunteering places, and then also there's volunteer programs across the world where you can go.
I feel like it does, but at the same time, I feel like people sort of look at it like it's sort of smaller or not sort of smart because of our age or what we are. A lot of people have stereotypes on teenagers of being reckless and all that and not knowing what they're doing, just being hard on people. But I feel like if you actually listen to them, they have good ideas and can change. So.
I think my school does a really good job at that, like, because we have like the eco studies program, so it's just a bunch of kids who are super passionate about the environment.
As for HERD, as in the government, the voting age is 18, which I believe is too high, because I believe that there's a lot of people younger than 18 who would love the chance to vote and put their decide to have their voice heard in the government.
Some ways we can make that change is getting youth more involved in the decision making. This would be through probably surveys and maybe voting at even younger ages, not in terms of like the government, but in terms of what action should be taken in like local communities in order to protect the environment. Yeah, and definitely like getting more connected with youth and hearing what they have to say about what should be done.
I feel like it has much more of a voice than it used to, thanks to social media. However, I do feel as though we are not being heard or taken seriously as much as we should be, because we are educated and we do know what we're talking about despite our ages, and we are the ones who are inheriting this earth. So I feel as though our voices should be heard more than they are.
So I just asked them, final thoughts. Share anything with me you want.
Final comments to all the youth and as well adults, anyone out there, try to get off technology more and go outside. Life is so much bigger and more beautiful than what we see at work and in our schools and on our screens. You know, life is out there, and if you just go out and connect with nature and with the animals, you'll see like the true beauty and peace of what the world has to offer.
To my generation, I think it was just get out into your world and explore it, because it has so much to offer. It's going to come down to just protecting this earth, and that's going to be our job as the next generation.
Just like pay attention to what you're doing and don't hurt the environment. Go outside.
I think just people getting more active in what's happening around them and listening to the people who actually have something to say instead of just pushing it off.
You know, the people who are leading the world, they're not going to be the people who are leading the world in 15 years, in 20 years. So what they mess up, my demographic is going to have to fix. So if we can show them that if they be better right now, then we can have a better future for everybody.
Well, something I've heard a lot is that our generation is the generation that's going to be most impacted by climate change and one of the last generations that can do anything about it. So I think it's important to remember that we can do something, and if we really try, we can make a difference.
If we don't act, I'm seriously so scared, because this is the only planet that we know of, and I love this planet. It's amazing.
You have so much to see and so much to do. I feel like sitting at home on a TV, on an Xbox, on a PS4 is just such a, if you think to yourself, I can see so much, I can do so much that's not made by man. I feel like it's just such a keen thing that people need to do. It's go outside, see the world, just look at it for a couple minutes and you can just tell that that's where you need to be.
I think there's a lot of stereotypes about kids our age, but I think that there are many things that maybe older people or people that aren't in our generation might not see that's buried beneath some of our personalities.
I just think that, like, I know a lot of people who are passionate about nature and the environment, and if there were a way that we could get our voices out, I think people would be surprised about how many people, or how many youth, I guess, care about the environment.
So that was just a glimpse into some of these youth, just a handful that I was able to get that day. And when you look at teens, when you see youth, when you see them in your families, in your neighborhoods, in your place of employment, you might even be a teacher and you see them regularly. There's a lot going on, and they have a lot thrown at them all the time. So do we, right? I mean, everybody, I'm sure the majority of you have the phone in your pocket or a computer at home, and we're inundated with information all the time. And these youth will sometimes hear some very dire things, which is important to hear, it's important for us to hear as well. But taking that on as a teenager, you can kind of hear some of that fear. You can hear some of that doubt and just like, and concern. But they're ready, and so I want to keep giving them a platform. And so a couple of sessions ago, a couple of years ago with Yes, I started doing focus groups, and what was coming from that is that they wanted more, just like what those kids were saying. And so we created, and the youth themselves created this acronym, Hamilton Halton Youth Promoting the Environment, or HYPE. So we are going to be starting something in 2019. This is just a shot of us conducting a rock garden. We have 3 events set up in 2019, 3 HYPE events. One of them is going to be on Thursday, April the 4th. A local youth, only I think 19 years old, Julia Barnes, has created this documentary called The Sea of Life, and we're bringing her in to talk a bit about her documentary, why she did it, showing it to the youth, and then having a bit of Q&A after at Rock Garden. So if you have someone in your life that's in grade 9 through grade 12, 13 through 18, suggest that they come to something like this, and there'll be some more, you'll hear more about these HYPE nights shortly, but it's kind of all being formulated right now. So excited to have a space that these youth can come to, and with the other 2 nights, I'm having the Yes Alliance themselves plan it. So I learned about something. So Roger Hart, a child's right academic, I guess from the University of New York, created the ladder of participation. And people often can use other demographics for their benefit, and sometimes it ends up just being a terrible move on an organization's behalf. They say what happens a lot are the bottom 3, manipulation, declaration, or tokenism, where the organization themselves kind of comes up with this idea, and they're just plugging t-shirts, putting signs, they're kind of creating the plan, and then just having you show up and say, you're going to sit here, you're going to do that, and you're going to do this. Okay, it's going to be great, it's your event, okay, go. When really the youth have not done anything for it. So where they suggest is, you want to try and work towards these stages. Where you're creating something, but you're letting the youth take the reins on it. Where you say, okay, we have this space, we have this date. What do you want to do? Who should we get? What should our message be? What should our theme be? What should our posters look like? Who wants to do what? And you really put the onus on them, because then you've captured them, you've got them, and they then want to strive and work harder to promote something that they're coming up with. So having something where eventually perhaps they're the ones leading the whole thing, I mean, that could be a bit much for some organizations and probably too much for RPG, but we'll try and strive to get anywhere from 5 to 7 where we're working collaboratively. And so word's getting around, people are understanding that RPG is doing these youth-based programs, and again, we've been doing them for years, junior nats and all of our camps, but especially with Yes Alliance with high school groups. So I've been in a few different classrooms. I'll get to that in a second. And even with the Naturalist Club, if you picked up the latest copy of the Wood Duck, Summer Thomas was someone in one of those videos. We sent her to the Youth Summit. She was sponsored to go on behalf of the Naturalist Club. She was so excited to do so. Up north to Aurelia for 2.5 days with other youth. So she's a great write-up. If you've got your Wood Duck, check it out. Westmount and St. Mary's. I was part of a living library at 2 different occasions. One at Aldershot where I was rented out. The kids got to know ahead of time who was going to be there, and they signed up to sit with an outdoor educator from RBG or a police officer or a city planner or someone from another organization. They sit there with them and just ask them any question for 15 minutes. So I was like a human book for a little bit, and it was pretty amazing. They just wanted to be part of something. They wanted to know more. And so advertising for year 4 went, and right now we are in the midst of year 4 of Yes Alliance. And right now I've got another 16 kids that are part of the club. And this was us again, without the junior nats taking part in the walk down to Carroll's Point, a walk through Princess Point where we had done some invasive removal shortly before that. A night hike, so that was us gathered at the bottom of the Hickory Valley Trail along the Anishinaabe-Wadizawin Trail and a new boardwalk that was built as part of Canada 150. And so hiking at night is remarkable, and I always tell them we're probably not going to hear owls. Like night hikes, I've never been on a successful night hike and heard owls. But we were trying, and we were howling for coyotes. Fun to be a part of. There's us removing some invasives. A tree had fallen nearby, and we had to get a biotech out to cut the tree down. This is us working in partnership with the Coast to Escarpment Eco Park and St. William Seeds, and they came out, and the seed expert brought seeds to show and talk about native seeds and how they disperse. And then we made seed bombs. This was us throwing seed bombs along that hydro corridor along the Pinedum Trail, just to establish it with even plants. This is a picture. We did another shoreline cleanup this year. It was happening the weekend after, and this was us kind of creating a bit of a line for the volunteers from the community who were coming the week after. But what we discovered was a bag from a bait shop that was sitting on the shoreline, and it said like 20 at 25 cents each. So fishermen are releasing, captive fish for whatever reason into Coos and into the harbor. And this was a big eye opener for the youth holding this bag. She was pissed. And it's great to hear that coming from these kids. They're not just like, this is garbage. She read it. She said, can you believe this? And went bananas. And it was great to hear that. And then she brought it back to the group and showed the whole group, and just we talking about native species and the results of invasives on area. And the future of youth, locally, provincially, nationally, but globally, there's something on the rise right now. Greta Thunberg is someone who is from Sweden, and she has been starting a protest that has spread like wildfire. If you have not heard this young person speak, it's amazing. And she's calling out everybody. She's saying, why am I in school if we're being told that this planet might not be where it is in even 10, 15 years? What are you teaching us this now? You need to be bettering this planet. Stop everything. We're in a crisis. And she's organized a school strike on a Friday afternoon. And right now there are 270 different schools in just North America alone participating in weekly school strikes to get the word out to governments that these kids see what's happening. So definitely look around. The future of Yes Alliance is something that I'm going to continue to give these kids a platform as long as I'm here. Through these hike nights and through our monthly gatherings. This is myself and my younger brother in Hendry Valley, probably back in the early 90s, I think before the boardwalk was even there. I think the bridge is right somewhere around here. But it starts somewhere. And if there's anyone in your life that wants to continue to take part in more things, there are websites, there are hashtags, there are organizations locally to follow. Locally, the 350.org has a Hamilton chapter, Environment Hamilton, the Burlington Green Youth Network, Sustainable Hamilton Burlington. This thing that even you can be a part of, or your grandkids or nieces or nephews or your neighbors, you can hear them talking about things. But you all have the internet. A lot of you probably have social media. You can look up a lot of these things and see what's happening there and be a part of it. Because when someone says to me, well, why do I care about you? I don't know. Why? You are a mentor no matter where you go. That word to me is kind of weighted. I didn't know what to think of when I was told that you're going to be a mentor to these kids. And if a teenager was like, hey, this man is going to be your mentor, they might think, who the hell is this guy? I don't need a mentor. So you have to try to be a mentor without being one, which is kind of what we all are, which our parents and our family and our friends were to us growing up. And if you do the things that you like, then you're going to show younger kids what genuine enthusiasm and passion is. They're going to see that. And yeah, you might be crazy Aunt Gertie for a moment, or Wild Uncle Bill or whatever, but maybe a year or two down the road, they're going to think like, it was amazing to see him or her or them in their element, in something they love doing. And if you have to go, when I was younger, you had to go to church and you had to go to certain things. If you can instill at a family event, we're going to go hiking. It's family day, we're going hiking. That's what I want. Then we'll go do dinner or something after. It's my birthday, I love. Let's go on a walk. Let's go somewhere. Take them to your favorite spot and talk to them about why it's your favorite spot. And it might ring true, it might hit them somewhere, and it might not, but you can't not try if you have the ability to do so. Being an example of someone to look up to. If you are somebody who is working with youth, who has youth in your life, you've got the ability. And what I find is you just have to ask them. And a lot of times they won't offer the information unless you actually grill them on it. Even for a second, just if it's one-on-one, it sometimes can be better than in a group setting. But just pick their brains and find out how you can better make your space more open to teens. And it's funny when people say, you know, they're always on their phones. I see more adults on their phones than I see youth a lot of the time. These kids are on their phones when we're hiking until we get to a spot that might be, you know, a big photogenic area or come across a carcass or something crazy. But oftentimes they're in communication with those around them. They're talking, they're listening, they're asking questions. So you can be doing that with them possibly in your world. And even if you're not in nature with them, how are you portraying yourself to just anybody at the store, at the grocery store? Are you someone that your family or your youth already look up to or not? And they're looking at you as an example. But being authentic and being you and showing them your love of things will definitely pass forward with that. And in high school, this is me when I was in high school. I didn't know what I was going to be. A girl styled my hair that way and told me to get an eyebrow ring, so I did. And I didn't know the first thing. And so when you look, we were all weird and crazy in high school at some point, maybe even as young adults, maybe as adults now. But having that patience, understanding that there's a lot happening, and just being there, being a part of it, is all you can be. So that's mostly it. So thank you. I've got time for some questions as well, if there are any. Yes.
I'm just wondering if you might want to consider inviting them to some of the presentations at this point here.
I do. Yep. Yeah. I'm talking about the Naturalist Club regularly with them, and these talks. I don't know if they know what these even are. It might take a few times for them to come see it for themselves, but I've talked about it. Maybe it means, Lou, that we just find some hunky young, you know, enthusiasts. I'm trying to show them other youth. Who knows? We'll talk about that. But I definitely want to get them out here more. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So some kids. So I send them a survey. So the question was, am I keeping track of what they're doing and where they're going, and they're sticking with it? I send them a survey at the end of the year, and I'll send them another survey a year later. And I let them opt out of emails that they don't want to be a part of it. Some kids don't. They did their year, and that's it. They might not even pursue any of it. But the kids that do, they keep in touch with me. They said hey, I'm in this program at Trent. I've got one kid. One of the kids is now in Iceland. You know, so as they're graduating high school, getting into university, they want to see the world and explore. So they're all over the place. They're in various parts of. Like some have gone to the East Coast, some have gone to the West, and I'm keeping track for no real purpose. I mean, other than knowing that they're out there. I don't know what to do with that information, but I'm trying to keep track of that. Yeah.
You said you wrote the book.
Yeah. So the question is, has the board talked a little bit about how to engage you? Not entirely, because I think with things like this established, the hope is that it kind of starts a bit of a movement. And so there hasn't been like here's our direct plan of how to attract youth and retain them. Because I think they're on an escalator in my mind, you know, that they're just kind of passing through this moment, and then they're gone. And when they're off into university, you know, they get a full-time job. You know, this was great. This is something they did. It's maybe a resume builder. We don't know what we're capturing necessarily, but there should be a bit of a directive as to like, okay, we want to try and strive to get this many youth involved. But if we don't, it's not necessarily a bad thing. We might not be reaching them the best way. And that was something I was going to talk about, is trying to engage with youth because everyone's on their phones. Kids think a lot of them aren't on Facebook. They think Facebook is for phones. They're on Instagram, or they're all on Snapchat. And Snapchat is something that it's not so much a public thing where you have a profile. You can post something, and then as soon as someone sees it, or within 24 hours, it's gone. So they post about kind of where they are, and they give updates, but then it disappears. So everyone says, you got to get a Snapchat, get a yes on Snapchat. So perhaps there is more targeted social media avenues that we can start pursuing. But that's good. Yeah. Yeah, so depending on the session, so like with invasives, with shoreline cleanups, with junior naturalists, I offer volunteer hours as part of Yes Alliance. And I keep track of those hours for them, send it to them at the end of the year, how many they achieved. It ends up being anywhere around close to 20 hours if they attend all of those sessions. And I say this one coming up is, and I always email them on a Wednesday and I say Saturdays are get together, we're gonna do this, here's a little bit of a weather update. And it's going to be towards your volunteers so that they know they can come and get those hours. And I sign all the sheets for them and everything. But yeah, that helps for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, I think your high school hairdo.
Me too. Well, I use, yeah, one of them I use, I think, but share a bit about that if you could.
It's an amazing initiative. It's growing North America, and you get high schools involved. You could actually do some of the programming they're teaching for it on site here, and it would help the students compete. It's usually an environmental group within a high school, so high schools compete, and it's a very easy thing to start up and keep going, and you just it's already there. The programming is there, there's your tree height diameters, and all kinds of different things. It's really well.
Cool. So the Ontario Envirothon. Yeah, one of the youth had told me about it, and she said it's difficult because there are so many, because you have to go into a field and quickly count as many living things that you're finding, in your plot, and then rushing it back. And she said half the time she didn't even know what a lot of them were, but it made her want to learn more because it was such a challenge. That's what kind of why I got into birding. It's like, oh, it's gone. And it was so interesting to try and follow them around a little bit, as opposed to people who like plants, like, it's not going anywhere. We can study this for 2 weeks. Anyway, so yeah, I'll keep going with some questions. Yes.
Loved your presentation, it was great. I actually saw this on the social media thing. I got my son.
Amazing.
And,
thank you. Some youth.
Yes. So when do you begin your registration for the next session?
The hike nights, our Southern Net will start soon, and that will be a one-off event. Yes Alliance we open up in the summertime, and then our first session is usually mid to late September. So that's when year 5 of Yes Alliance will begin. Sometime. The events, yeah. Yeah. A lot of these youth were like, have an event with free food, and we'll come. Have something where we can injure each other, like laser tags and paintball. They'll go to those things. They want, concerts and DJs. They want coffee nights. They want karaoke, poetry reading. Like they want the gamut, which is great because there's not much of it out there to begin with. So for us to host these events is our step into that. So the hike night, that date is secure April 4th when we start advertising. But I mean, maybe we'll find a way to connect and we'll make sure that you're in no matter what. Yeah. Yes.
As an observation, in the interviews that you presented with the number of youths, I didn't hear one of them say, and you hear that so much from supposedly educated people being interviewed on TVO or on CBC. And I didn't hear, I heard 2 of them use the term life out of proper context.
Right.
But only 2 of them.
Yeah.
And these are really intelligent teenagers.
And I'm glad you caught that, and I thought so too. When I presented this to Nature Guelph, the comment was, well, I feel a little bit better about the youth in our community after just hearing from that small group, because it shows that they care. So I'm glad that you picked up on that. Like, there wasn't tons of likes. Some kids, even I find myself thinking, but yeah, they're questions? Yep.
Incentive to get to know the climate literacy, you said there's so much there that we didn't know.
Yeah, an incentive would be neat. I think my fear behind that would, because there's kids, like there's one girl who when she sees scat on the ground, she'll pick it up and break through with her bare hands. And you'll hear, oh my God, what is she doing? And she's down on the ground, she's like, look at these bones! And then some kids have never really encountered much wild animal poop. And so there's a bit of a range in their own expertise that my fear would be that, if I'm rewarding kids but that's a great idea. And instead, I become a reference for a lot of these kids should they build that kind of report for their resume. And I provide them with a certificate as well so that it says they've completed this course. So I try to use it, but I mean, I will test them and I will grill them on certain things. I mean, come on guys, we've seen that black bird, every hike now. What is this giant black bird? So we're getting there. I saw one last hand, yes.
Jackson, your interviews with students were very revealing, I thought, in their concerns which focused or zeroed in on two primary issues, litter and particularly plastic litter, and even more so with climate change.
Yeah.
Why don't you take, as one field trip, a group of those students who are more vocal and more opinionated to Queen's Park and go and bang on Doug Ford's door?
We're getting there. And I'll tell you this. So we're the first hike night. In order to kind of get their feet wet, we're going to do this documentary screening. But the kids have mentioned that they understand that you got to go to the source of the problem, which are the creators of plastic. They know that. Then they know that there's limited regulations. So they know that that's twofold. So finding it from the source and finding the governments who are allowing it. One thing that they want to do is try and bring out as many youth as possible to one of these hike nights. Or maybe it's going to be a hike afternoon. We'll figure it out together. But they've given themselves right now a goal of 500 youth. And they want to have an event where they arrange to count people on their way in. And we bring them all into like the lower bowl of the rock garden. And we pack it full of 500 youth. And perhaps banners are made ahead of time or they're made there, and because they recognize that there is a big power in numbers. They see protests, they see standing in solidarity of, they see all these things, and they know that it's in those big numbers. So that's not far off. My only concern is that we will represent Royal Botanical Gardens. We are an arm, we're a branch of the provincial government. We receive 4.5 million or 5 million from the Ontario government alone, just like the Art Gallery of Ontario and a few other places, Ontario Place and whatnot. So that funding perhaps could be at risk. And if RBG is sending youth out to do something, we've got to be very careful about that. But maybe it's not an RBG thing. Maybe these kids are doing it on their own. Perhaps with some encouragement by someone like me. I don't know. I'm not going to send them off to jail. But I will encourage them to be loud, to be vocal, because I think they know that that's what's next. And I think we know that too, and we're seeing that with the rise of gatherings and protests and whatnot. So I thank you for spending this whole time sitting and listening and being a part of this. You got to know me a little bit more now. I hope you're part of the Naturalist Club and RBG in this region for years to come. So at any time you need to reach out or want to reach out, you can connect to me through anyone from the board. But I'm happy to entertain more talks now and again. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for being here.